The Cine Men, number 70, man. We have hit 70 full ass shows, Douglas. Can you believe it?
For a moment there, I was like, is he going to remember? Last one was the 69th. It was a great episode.
It was a great episode.
I'm not even making a joke. It was a great episode.
How could I forget such an esteemed episode that was episode 6? Now, I went better than I thought I was going to go. Could have got a little bit sloppy, but we.
What do you mean?
We held firm the entire time. It was wonderful.
Oh, you're making set. Oh, I see what you're doing. I was like, wait, what? I thought it was great.
It was,
but great. It's always like that. Someone's like, that was fantastic, and someone else is going, could have used a little more foreplay. It's always one way or the other.
It's always one way or the other. Some people are just you can't please everybody.
So
if you can't please everybody, you might as well at the very least please yourself. All right, that episode 70 of the Cine Men, man. We're back to one of our more regular-ish type of episodes, man. Back with our list. It is halfway throughout the year 2022, and as we here are wont to do, we very much want. We lay down so far what is our top 5 movies for the year. And there's a little something for you to listen back to at the end of the year to see what changes as we do our top 10. We're giving you permission to double dip in this episode. But before we get to that, man, we got to start how we always start, man. What have you seen recently, my good sir?
Not as much as I would have liked. The damn storms that have come through Charlotte just sort of screwed up my entire schedule. I was hoping to have watched The Northman and The Outfit by now.
Oh,
both of them from Netflix. And there's literally right there, right off camera. Thursday got fucked. Let's see, my Monday night got fucked. Couldn't check them out at all. So I'm hoping to do that within these next couple of days. But I got to watch the Criterion release of Oksha, which is the Bong Joon-ho movie from 2017. It was one of my favorite movies from 2017. They've put that out as a Criterion release as of July 5th. It is fantastic. And first of all, I loved the movie. Gave it 4.5 out of 5. Rewatching it fucking holds up. There's one moment where the VFX doesn't, but the rest of the movie does. And the bonus features that are on it are fantastic. It's like over 2 hours, if I remember correctly. I wrote that up this morning. So if you like Oksha, which is available as a Netflix original, highly recommend picking up the Criterion just because of the different interviews that are available and on it. They really extend the experience, particularly because, at least for me, this was my second Bong film. I saw Snowpiercer first. And this one, I think out of the 4 that I've seen, Oksha is my favorite. So just want to recommend that. I also got to finally check out one of my most anticipated movies of the year, Tom Gormican's The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I enjoyed it. I did not love it as much as I thought I would. And strangely enough, I have Falcon and the Winter Soldier to blame.
Bear with me 1 second here. No, I see no connections between the two of those things. I'm like, is Pedro Pascal? No. Are any of them in? Not as far as I know off the top of my head. Nope. I would love to see how the Falcon and the Winter Soldier somehow muddled the unbearable weight of massive talent for you.
Okay, so Apple has a rule. If you are going to use their products, only good guys can use their products.
Yep.
And that came out in an article that was picked up, and it was using a quote by Rian Johnson. If I remember correctly, he was filming Knives Out. I forget if it was Knives Out or whatever the project was before it, but had to have specific, no bad person was allowed to use an Apple product. That is just something they do. And unfortunately, and Massive Talent has been out. It was in theaters. It's been on home video for weeks. Hopefully you've had a chance to see it. But all the marketing suggested that Pedro Pascal's Javi was the bad guy. He's using an Apple phone.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that, I went, motherfucker. And at that point, I was waiting for the movie to catch up to where I was. Now, it has some great surprises. I liked how it handled Tiffany Haddish and Ike Barinholtz's CIA characters. They weren't the traditional played for comedy, overused type of characters. It really was the Nick Cage, Pedro Pascal two-hander for the majority of it. In fact, I love the fact that spoiler alert, Ike's character dies off screen. You see him.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of how they handled either one of those characters.
I
How
had
they
no
exited.
problem with it.
Yeah.
I had no problem with, and one thing that I actually particularly loved is how it went from different genres when it finally got to the Michael Bayhem of it all, that the movie actually ends in a very Bayhem way, literally ripping off Bayhem, and it's David Gordon Green as the stand-in as the director for that, who did the Halloween movies, the recent ones. So anyway, it's fine, and I look forward to rewatching it. I'll just be rewatching it without the expectation of this should be great, it'll be a ton of fun, and then have that sort of meh. Now that I've seen the whole film, I sort of hope I can enjoy it a little bit more.
Interesting. And I think they for me, they leaned too hard into trying to make you believe that Pedro Pascal is the bad guy. So about 30-40 minutes in, I was like, so where's the flip gonna happen? And there it is right there. But if I had it one way or the other, I'm happy with. I much prefer him being the good guy to the bad guy.
I agree. I was just going to be impressed if somehow they had him be the bad guy, but they didn't reveal that until later, and like there was more story before we got to that beat. And instead, there was too much that to me was predictable. That while the play with genres was a lot of fun, between character study to buddy comedy to thriller to just the straight up ridiculousness, I had no problem with how they handled any of that. But yeah, that particular character twist, particularly once I noticed, I was like, well, I know where this is going. It's going to be the cousin. The cousin showed up and was all rude and whatever.
So why are you blaming Falcon and Winter Soldier here?
Power broker.
Oh, is she rocking an iPhone? Wait,
she has an Android.
Okay, she's got an Android.
She's the only character with an Android. Everybody else is fucking Apple.
That's lovely. Excellent.
So that's the whole reason before the reveal came about her, that folks were like, I think she's probably going to be the bad guy because she doesn't have an iPhone. And people were like, what the hell does that mean? And so there were articles about this. So yeah, the iPhone rule. If they don't have an iPhone, chances are probably a bad guy.
Also a scroll. But anyway, you will never be able to.
Whoa. Are you saying that our bud, played by Mads Mikkelsen, not Mads, sorry, Ben Mendelsohn, different guy, completely different, whatever, different dude. But Ben Mendelsohn, he would have an Android. Are you saying he's a bad guy?
First of all, no, I'm not saying all Skrulls are bad guys.
You said unless they're a Skrull.
Not all Skrulls are bad guys. I think this has been established in the MCU now, but I do believe the Power Broker is indeed a Skrull of Sharon Carter.
Ooh, okay. This is tangential. We'll bring it back to movies, but I got to ask why. Why do you think she's going to be a Skrull?
We need to start seeding them for Secret Invasion next year. And I do believe that you need to have at least like one gut punch Skrull of like, oh, fuck. And then you need to have a couple of like, oh, man, that kind of sucks. And I feel like she would be in the, oh, that kind of sucks phase. Because what we saw of her, the last time we saw her was Captain America Civil War, very on the side of righteousness and morals. Now, complete piece of shit. And it seems like that is a huge 180. Now the character has gone through some shit in that time, but I think
she was abandoned by her country. She was standing up for the right thing. Manipulated by Hydra.
The Skrull is using her face to access things for their own ends, and it's just character assassination for Sharon Carter in the world. I for some reason, like every spider sense,
Sharon Carter was a Skrull the whole time,
not the whole time,
therefore retconning the kiss to be okay because it wasn't actually Sharon Carter.
They're gonna pull some Luke and Leia shit in here somewhere. I think definitely from the time we've seen her last to now, that's when the switch happened somewhere in there. If I'm wrong, I will go back and retroactively cut all this out of the episode and re-upload it again as if nothing ever happened.
That's a good thing I download every episode. Anyway.
It's time to bring my big magnets next time I'm over at your house.
No, I'll lose everything. And then the
Sacrifices must
last
be
film I
made.
want to talk about before I get into that one, I want to hear about yours because I want to discuss it with you. So what movies have you checked out?
I saw the Black Phone. Pretty good movie, man. If you're a fan of horror, like I said in my review, like if you're big into the horror genre and you're waiting for the inevitable fall deluge that we will get of horror movies, this is one that will definitely satisfy you for a while.
Right.
Good story, good pacing, man. I enjoyed it. Ethan Hawke having to do the most behind the mask.
Did he grab you?
He came close. He came close. I think the kids who kind of carry this movie, I think they do a pretty damn good job of it all. I like seeing competent, capable people in horror movies, which the whole trope is they kind of have to be dumb to either get in the situation or not be too smart to easily get out of the situation. But this kid kind of hold his own, man. Like he has the broke down, hopeless era that we would all have if we're in that situation. But after he gets over that, man, he's off to the fucking races, trying to figure out how to get out of his situation. And I really dig that. Yeah, it's a pretty well done movie. I dug it. I saw Mad God, thought that shit was kind of whack. Yeah, I'm not a fan of plotless, directionless movies, and that's what I felt. There's times I'm like, oh, I see where it's going for here, and then the whole thing just shifts over here, and I was like, perhaps I was wrong. Which is weird. As a movie that I will give, I think 2 stars to is what I gave it. I still have it nominated for a whole bunch of shit, which makes no sense. Like it'll get a direction nomination for me and cinematography as well. But there's some things in there I'm just like, nah, it just wasn't for me. I tend to prefer a told story. Give me a story when I sit down to watch movies, and there is no real story behind it all. And if there is, and I just missed it, then it is subterranean levels of subtext that
he's already gone underground, so it's there with you.
he starts off with that subterranean. Yeah, it just wasn't for me. But if you're a fan of dazzling visuals, and man, it took 30 years to do a stop motion joint, you got to respect the work and the hustle and the process that went into it. It's on Shudder. You can get yourself, you didn't hear from the Cine Men, get yourself a little 30-day free subscription, watch that shit and jump off. I'm not saying that's what I did. Yeah, and also take some time to watch One Cut of the Dead if you're also on there.
I will concur with One Cut because that movie is fucking amazing.
And I love that movie.
And if you feel comfortable going to the theater, I believe Mad God is screening this week at the Independent Film House in Cinema House, excuse me, in Charlotte. It changes every week, and I can't remember if Mad God was last week or this week.
Yeah, I think it might have been last week, but don't quote me on that one. If you have the opportunity to go check this out, go ahead and check it out, man. If nothing else, you will be amazed visually at the nonsense that came out of that man's skull.
I wanted to see it so badly. It screened at a festival I was covering. I got 15 minutes in and got a migraine, and I couldn't finish it. I was terrified that if I kept watching, or if I tried to watch it again, like just went through the 15, like fast forwarded if I could or whatever, and picked it back up, that the strobing and flashing lights, whatever, would just continue. And then I can't do it to myself.
And do it to yourself.
I'm actually pretty frustrated about that because I loved the first 15 minutes. It was dark and it was uncomfortable. And minus the strobing, I was very, what the fuck am I watching, in a cool way. But I totally get what you're saying. I was actually thinking about this recently. I know I've challenged you to watch it, and we'll discuss it at some point. But Good Time, that movie, very much not for me, and I rated it very poorly. However, there's so many things that are really fantastic about it, and it's made me wonder if I should go back and watch it. That it may not be for me, but that doesn't mean that it's not a well done film. So, like how you're nominating Mad God and different things, but it was not a you film. I've been thinking about that with Good Time, in sort of a reverse way of where I saw Spectre and loved everything about it, but then in rewatching it, I went, yeah, I don't know about that. So critics have to be open, just like any other audience member, to go, maybe I didn't didn't receive that as I should have, and revisit and revise. So
yeah, there you go. And speaking of revisit and revising, man, Thor: Love and Thunder, I like with each less and less with each passing second.
Oh no.
Why
not? Do I need to put on November Rain? Will that make you feel better?
Absolutely not.
Should I play Patience? They didn't play Patience.
They did not play Patience, and I have none for this movie.
What? Just your curiosity. You've got a spoiler-free review up. I've got a spoiler-free review up. People can go read those on either Paprika or Ellen's Madness if they want to check it out. I'm curious, why is the movie working less and less for you? You know the comics better than I do, so you've got that to contend with too.
Yes, I do, and it boils down to that. I don't have any issues with Waititi. He's created his little niche in the pop culture world. If you want to tell all sorts of weird and silly stories, I'm all for it. That's what we do in the Shadows. Is Jojo Rabbit a little less silly, but still an incredibly well done movie, I think. But I'm not a fan of his sensibilities paired with these two in particular Thor stories. Thor Ragnarok is heavy shit in the comics. It is what Thor spends his time fearing the most, what he spends his time working his hardest to avoid from happening. And when it does happen, in some instances, it's Loki that sets off Ragnarok. It completely devastates him.
I've seen the movie. It's not Loki.
Shut up. In the comics, it's a very serious story, and it's one of Ragnarok might be considered one of these seminal Thor stories. And then you look at what we have with Gore the God Butcher, like of recent Thor memory in the Jason Aaron run, Gore has been by far, I would say, the biggest, most menacing threat in recent Thor history has been Gore the God Butcher. And that is also an incredibly heavy run as well. So when you take that and compare with the sensibilities and the goofiness and the zaniness of Taika Waititi, it just doesn't work for me. And like I said in my review, that it creates that tonal imbalance. Like, this should be heavy shit, and what we're getting is the MCU joke machine cranked up to 1,000. Now, while the jokes themselves are funny, definitely worth laughing at, they're still just ill-placed and inappropriate for the subject matter that he is adapting from, is my biggest concern. And the first act is a mess.
Not in a form of argument, but just for my own clarification, you've seen it now twice, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I've only seen it the one time at the press screening. It's interesting because I remember after it ended and asking you what you thought, and you were like, but I could hear you and Leslie laughing about as much as I was. So I was particularly interested to read your review. It was a very well written review. I appreciated your points that you made in it. I found it interesting because your take on it, and as you just discussed it, I have no background in the comics whatsoever. I can only go by the movies. I didn't think it was imbalanced in the emotion, particularly with the way that the film begins, and the idea being that more or less our faith is misplaced in a higher power when it should be placed in each other. And that's not what I'm saying the movie necessarily is strictly about, but there's a play of theology and the idea of love, of real love over blind love, that Gore goes through the shit, and even losing his daughter is terrible, but he's willing to deal with it if it means that his God will take care of him, and his God laughs at him instead. And that runs through. I mean, Thor is considered a god by Midgard, and he's looked up to in that way, and he tries to help out, but he's still trying to figure out how to do all this stuff. So I and then he meets Zeus, and that's a total shit show. So I thought that there was this really interesting thread going through it, but I most certainly would need to watch it again to see if I'm imagining it or if it's just my interpretation. I mean, we all take what we take from any movie that we watch. So it's interesting to hear that, because I got teary in the throwdown against gore because of some imagery that appears, without spoiling this particular item, where something happens. It's in the marketing, but I still won't get into it. And it looks like I forget the name of the tree, but the
Idrisil.
Thank you. The tree that holds everything together. But with Taika being Jewish, I also took that to be emblematic of the tree of life and the situation in which it's being used, how it's being used, by whom it's being used. I found to be really emotionally powerful. But again, I could be reading into it, and I probably won't get a chance to ask Taika about that for a couple of years. So who knows? I got lucky once. Wasted it on Jojo Rabbit. So no, it's fascinating. But before we get into today proper, I did want to ask you in particular one question, not about this movie specifically, but what could happen moving forward because of this movie. We got the Necro Sword, we got the Shadow Realm. Do you think this is their way to bring in the symbiotes?
No. No. I don't think this is how you bring in the symbiotes. Are you asking what moves forward as far as just the Thor franchise? Or just MCU in general?
Like, do you think that that's a way? Because we've got the symbiote left behind by Sony's Venom by Tom Hardy at the end of No Way Home. We've got that on the bar.
I thought that also disappeared with everything else. Did that stay behind?
Yeah, that stayed behind.
Okay,
because we see that after, I forget the actor's name, but he's in Ted Lasso. He's like, fucking Americans, they never tip, and then we just see I was curious. I haven't read that run myself, but scrolling through Instagram in the search function, you see all kinds of comic books. People just post up photos of stuff. And so I've seen issues with Null, not necessarily in full context, and I've done research. So I was curious, since Null is in the Shadow Realm, if I remember correctly, and Null has the Necro Sword, and that the Necro Sword pulls up in Love and Thunder these dark, monstrous creatures, obviously not symbiotes, but if you think that would be a way for the MCU to bring in Venom.
Yeah, I don't, no, my brain just can't make that connection between the two. I think you just bring in Venom in a full-on Spider-Man story and leave it like that. Let me put it this way. That's gonna be a dumb statement. No, the short answer,
there are no dumb statements.
I don't think so. But if that happens, then I mean, Venom was that dude back in the day, so I'll roll with those punches. But yeah, it is a movie, that Love and Thunder.
There we go. Well, thank you for chatting with me about it. It's been interesting to see your comments online and in various places. I quite liked it, and I often find, though, that I can still like a movie. I might not enjoy a movie, but the themes might resonate with me, so I'll lift it up a little bit more. But I think I'll need to see it again to see. Whereas watching Multiverse of Madness, still a ton of fun the second time through. I don't know if Love and Thunder will have the same resonance.
I tried to go into it that second time with an open mind, and I still had a lot of the same issues. Like I said, that first act, I think, is a bit clunky. Seems like Tessa Thompson's kind of sidelined in this movie. Gore is horrendously underserved, I think, and doesn't really come alive until the third act. Like when he shows up in the third act, like he shows up. But by that time, I think it's too little, too late. Damage is done. I think this might be visually one of the more interesting movies we've gotten. I think that whole Shadow Realm fight was fairly well fucking filmed, but it's a couple of things that just tipped the scales too much. And for me, it is sitting at 20 of 29 now, 20 or 22 of 29 now.
I can tell you that it's in the way that I rank the MCU films, it's the 29th.
It's the 29th.
Yeah, it's the 29th movie that they've released.
Oh, stop that.
Since I don't rank them because they're all fun, Someone did that once with Star Wars movies. People were just posting their ranks, and then people were getting so mad to see which ones were at the top and at the bottom. It was just the timeline.
What do you mean episode 1 is the number one? Ridiculous.
What's Phantom Menace number 1?
Ridiculous. Oh, yeah, there you go, sir. There you go.
Well, then,
a couple of things I would have liked to have seen more, but we'll save all that discussion for some other time. Let's get into why we're here.
We are here to talk about our current top 5 favorite movies of 2022. As some folks know, I keep a running list on Letterboxd. It helps me out at the end of the year. Currently, my favorite list, going from a single 5-star review all the way down to a 3.5-star, right? 3.5, yeah, 3-star, excuse me, reviews. I have 35 movies that I've loved this year. I've watched about, let's see what Letterboxd says. I have watched 180. I have loved 35.
I do not know why Letterboxd dislikes me, but it never updates my number of movies watched this year. Like, I think it currently says I've watched like 4 movies this year. And I think
I've watched at least 5 movies with you this year alone. So
I don't know why it does that, but I'm like, get a hold of yourself. Yes, it says yes, for this year, according to Letterboxd, is what I've had. And I'm not sure where the disconnect is, but apparently I'm one shy of a top 5, but I'll figure it out from
there. Well, I can tell you that what will not be in my top 5 are movies that I've loved, like The Batman, Emily the Criminal, Studio 666, We Are the Thousand, Halftime. Yes, I liked Marry Me, The Atom Project. What was it? Jujutsu Kaisen 0. That was so much fucking fun. After Yang, the Bob's Burgers movie, Leonore Will Never Die, and let's see, what's another really fun one? Gatlop, Hell of a Game. Those are just some of the movies on my list that are not in my top
5. You were talking about it earlier. Before we started recording, man. Just barely missing out on my top 5. Well, I know, but it's just barely missing out. Yeah, I guess it is just barely missing out.
One or the other.
The Outfit didn't quite make it, although I think it is. I think it's very underrated. It was a very, very come and go movie that I really liked. I thought Mark Rylance did great, and it's just fucking fashionable and fun all the way through. Man, there's a couple of actors that are just swinging for the fences, chewing the scenery, and just really enjoying being the bad guys. And Men just barely did not make my cut.
Both of those.
Yeah. Also,
I've got the outfit.
Triple R just missed my list as well. It is number 6 right now. I switched it as of about an hour ago.
I can't wait to hear what your top 5 are.
Number 5, the one that beat RRR.
Wait, hold on. What your top 5 RRR?
My top 5 RRR. Coming in number 5, The Northman. Man, it was 6. RRR was 5. After rewatching The Northman just right before we recorded, I flipped them. I still love this movie. I told Leslie I'm just gonna put it in to watch 30, and then I just watched the whole thing. It still holds up to me. It's still raw and brutal and visceral. I don't think I've seen a more heavy-handed theme than the vengeance of, or the futility of vengeance. But it's still well shot, well conceived. Anya Taylor-Joy does not have enough to do, but when she is on screen, she is delightful. And apparently, it was her idea to smear period blood in her enemy's face, which is a hell of a defense mechanism, if I say so.
Apparently, something you should do.
Something you should do. And I'm like, I think I'll take that as a defense I don't want, though. But yeah, it still holds up to me, and I'm a fan of Bobby Egg's. His first 3 movies, I have liked each one of them. I will continue down the Bobby Egg's path for now. But yeah, number 5 right now, at the time of this recording, is The Northman. Have we not watched it, or you have?
It is sitting right here. It was part of this week's plan, and then the storms all week ruined it.
I knew.
So I have both The Outfit and The Northman. And if I watch The Northman, it'll be the first Robert Eggers movie I've seen.
I didn't see the Vivitch until right before The Northman. I rewatched that 2 days before, and then I rewatched Lighthouse the day before, and then I watched Northman. The Lighthouse, man, it's some wild shit.
I bought The Witch when it was $5, and I keep trying to make time, but it's been difficult to do that. And The Lighthouse, I forget if it just wasn't not like in the run up to nominations, it didn't get any or whatever, that I never watched it. It was like, okay, if I haven't watched it and it didn't get nominated, because sometimes that just happens. But I tried to go watch it because I thought it was streaming on like Hulu or something, because it had been for a while. It's not anymore, or at least it wasn't, because I looked for it and it was like, no, you need a subscription to this other service. And I went, I'm paying for too many, so I'm just not. But I will. I want to see The Northman, because it's an adaptation of the same story that inspired Hamlet, right?
Yeah, considering the main character's name is Amleth, which I'm pretty sure you can rearrange some letters and get Hamlet out of that. Yeah, it's
or just take the H out.
Or just take the H out. Yeah, it's what inspires, considered one of Shakespeare's best joints. And you can see the blueprints all throughout. Nicole Kidman, man, is a goddamn animal in this movie, and I loved every bit of her performance as well. What is Sir Thou'st number 5?
My number 5 is a film I've talked about, I think once, early this year. It was a film I saw during Sundance, directed by Chase Joint. It's a documentary called Framing Agnes. It is a story about a real incident. Incident's the wrong word. A real study done at UCLA looking into health and sexuality. And it involved doing interviews with people of different ethnicities. And I think it's been a while since I've seen it, in 6 months. I forget if all of these subjects were transgendered or if some of them were homosexual but weren't trans. But part of the point of this documentary, and the reason why it's called Framing Agnes, is that by going through this study, the woman Agnes was able to provide certain answers so as courtesy of the study could get the gender reassignment surgery that she wanted. And so there is an examination of whether or not what she did was okay, because on the one hand, she got exactly what she wanted to make herself feel like a whole person, versus what it might do to individuals that don't have access to that, and whether it propagates the idea that you can't trust someone who is either homosexual or trans. And the way that Chase does this is the whole documentary jumps back and forth between a sort of straight interview with different individuals in the present, but then those same individuals and Chase, instead of doing a present day interview, jump to a style of a 1950s, I forget, 1950s, 1960s, I think it's like Ed Sullivan or something else program. And Chase goes from interviewer to host of show, and the person he's speaking to takes on the persona of the individual being interviewed in the study. And so their dialogue, if you will, is literally adapted from the transcripts of the study. It is riveting and really fascinating to jump into the idea of public facing versus private facing, the way that we code switch. Because when you watch someone on television doing an interview, that's just one version of themselves versus the version that they are when they're at home and in private. But also, if you're in a study, how do you do this? It was absolutely fascinating. I have no idea yet if it's gotten any wider release dates, but I cannot recommend it enough.
Well, there you go. Framing Agnes, you said.
Framing Agnes.
There you go. Boom. That's it. Number 5. It's interesting to see where your list goes from here, sir.
None of it's normal.
None of it's normal. I know. 4. Number 4 for me.
Did you say number 4 is Thor? I'm really surprised.
Absolutely not. The first thing I did when I left the theater, because I keep a private list of movies that could potentially be in there. And that way I don't have to really think about it. I can just kind of slide and move as this year goes on. First thing I did walking in that theater was take Thor off that list. The number 4 for me, although I did add Amsterdam, that trailer's out because that was pretty groovy. That
David O. Russell is a fucking asshole.
He's fucking asshole. Fucking asshole that hopefully can at least make a decent product. Or the flip side to that, maybe he'll be selling timeshares somewhere with Army Hammer.
Join Army Hammer.
Somewhere down the road. And of course, I will. I know Bullet Train will be on my list somewhere. But yes, number 4 for me, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm gonna have some A24 deliciousness in there somewhere. This, as far as A24 movies go, is probably the hardest they've ever punched as far as getting you right in your feels. Some are just fun, some are just funny. This one is just it'll leave you a mess. If you open yourself up and let it get inside of you, it'll leave you a complete wrecked mess, man. The most bonkers, absurd science fiction movie I've seen in quite some time. Finally giving Michelle Yeoh a platform to showcase more than just her martial arts skills, her dramatic chops. This is what, the Daniel's second movie behind Swiss Army Man?
I forget if it's their second or the third, but yeah, it's yeah.
From
the minds of the Swiss Army Man.
For the minds of Swiss Army Man. Another movie, thanks to your challenges, I quite enjoyed. Ke Huy Quan doing an absolute stellar job in this movie. Hadn't seen that motherfucker in 40 years. He pops up and blows the spot up. Everything about this movie is an assault on the senses, I think, is the best way to describe it. The production design is absolutely fantastic. The visual effects are wonderful. The direction is on point. This movie is a ride. It's not one that you're like, I feel like there's not going to be a whole lot of people that are like, I'm in the mood to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, but there will be people like, I'm in the mood to just get wrecked, and that's the movie that they're going to choose. But yeah, just a great movie, and it gets in there and it stays in there.
I have still not yet to see it. Think we talked about this before we started recording. There's a whole thing, but the short version is I was hoping to watch it Saturday night. It came, according to the tracking, it came to my area, then left my area, then decided to take a tour of North Carolina. Nobody knows where the fuck it is right now. So I have still not yet seen it. And I was hoping to watch it before this recording. But one piece of amusing factoid. For those of you that don't know, Elements of Madness has a YouTube channel. We primarily post trailers for upcoming releases, could be majors, could be indies, festivals, whatever. We also post film clips. The most popular thing I have ever posted is the fanny pack action sequence. 1 minute, 17 seconds, 71,000 views.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, I'm like 37 views, 10 views, maybe 50, maybe 100. Just depends on if I get it fast enough, if I'm, ahead of some other things. People loved Everything Everywhere All at Once so much. After it released, they just jumped on this clip. What the fuck? I want to see this movie so bad. And hopefully it'll appear tomorrow. And tomorrow night I'm not working and I can watch it.
There you go. Yeah, I won't say anymore. It's great. The acting is great. There is something that I love. James Hong is in this movie for a handful of scenes as well. There's something that happens with his character at the very end that is so wonderfully delightful for me that I was just like, oh, this is everything I wanted.
Does he fall in love with the green-eyed girl?
He does not fall in love with the green-eyed girl.
Damn it!
That's a story for another day. Tell it to you.
Old Jack always says that.
Next time you're on the Pork Chop Express, I'll let you know. Yeah, that's my number 4. Your number 4, sir.
My number 4 is another film that I was lucky enough to see at Sundance. It hit theaters in April. It is on home video on the 19th of this month. It's already available on VOD and digital. It is Riley Stearns' Duel. I recently rewatched this for the home release review. This movie fucking rules. I know it's not for everybody. Totally get that. I loved everything about this movie. The slight awkwardness of Karen Gillan's character, the sort of out of sync with everything that's going on. But more importantly, I loved the ending and how it echoes. Just you can suddenly feel everything that the movie is doing up to that point just lock into place. And I can't tell you how hard I lost my shit laughing when the movie ended. And you're probably not supposed to, but that was my reaction. Unfortunately, the home release, it has a 10-minute featurette, which is great. And it's got a audio commentary feature length from Riley, which is also awesome because it addressed a few things that I was interested in for the movie. I wish it had more. So when I say unfortunately, it's only got the two things, so I'm bummed out. But if you've never seen Duel,
struggle to get commentaries these days. So if we get one, I'll take it.
It's, and honestly, just the way hearing some of his answers and some of the stuff that he focused on or addressed, basically confirmed for me my interpretation of the ending of the movie, which I was like, sweet. But also the scene that plays over the credits, I liked his answer of ambiguity. That worked for me really, really well. So if you haven't checked this movie out, in short, it takes place in a world in which clones are available, but only to the terminally ill. The idea is that you can get a clone if you are dying, so that your family can be suffered the pain of your loss. And our character, played by Karen Gillan, Sarah, she finds out that she has a rare incurable disease and she's going to die. So she gets a clone. She has to sign all this paperwork, blah, 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 blah. And then discovers, after going through this process of getting her clone integrated into her life and learning and this, that, and the other, finds out, oh, wait, you got better. And the laws require that there can only be one of you.
Not a spoiler, people. That's in the trailer.
And this is in the trailer. So you have to fight to the death. This movie wants you to think that it's about that. It's not about that. And I'm not going to say any more if you haven't seen it. Again, it's on VOD and digital. It's coming available on Blu-ray and DVD on the 19th of July. Recommend checking it out.
I guess I'm going to need to check it out again, because I remember going, oh, that was pretty decent. And then I went about my day. So maybe I see underplays it. A lot of muted acting coming from Karen Gillan there.
Which I felt personally was on purpose.
Yeah. For
the character. She is so disconnected from her life.
For reality. I thought Aaron Paul is great in that movie as well. Yeah, good shit in there. Good shit. Excellent for your number 4. Didn't think to put that in my top 10, but still a good movie nonetheless. Number 3 for me, I have no small movies I noticed on my list. Like everything smaller I've seen this year, I've been like, yeah, that was okay. Like I tried to watch this Italian joint yesterday, and just halfway through I was like, gonna go wash these dishes instead.
Oh
yeah, I was underwhelmed. Usually there's at least one or two that sneaks into my top 10. I guess I just not have found those movies yet. Although maybe the outfit might be it, I don't know. But yeah, number 3 for me, man, Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness, coming from a man who has been waiting since 2005. Well, I guess technically since 2015, since we first saw Wanda. I have been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting to see my batshit crazy Wanda go batshit crazy. And what I got in this movie was a Wanda that went batshit crazy. And I loved every bit of it, man. I love that this, I'm already starting to see the recidivism all throughout Twitter. It wasn't all that good a movie. You people shut up. It's a great
people movie. Think what they want to think.
The people think what they want to think. Those people can also shut up. I tried to get you with the spit take there. Yeah, it's a ambitiously wild, weird movie that still manages to. I kind of compared it to Captain America: Civil War. A lot of moving parts. Still, Cap is the focus of the movie. I think the same thing is here for Strange. A lot of shit's happening in this movie, but Strange is still the focus, and the overall through line of knowing when to give up control, or simply put, just when to bring in help, not trying to take everything on your own, or or just having the ego and hubris required to think that you can handle everything all on your own. This kind of the through line of this story, and then seeing that play out and seeing how that has affected other strangers, and some of their fates met. Interesting. Batshit Wanda, definitely interesting. The fact that the Darkhold just snatched her ass right up at the end of WandaVision, and between that and this, we just saw an utter corrupted character. Not quite incurable, but man, she's got a long fucking road ahead of her in order to redeem herself. Much like the comics, man. Wanda in the comics was a black stain for a minute, and it took quite a while for the Marvel Comics continuity to really accept her as a superhero and start putting her on teams again. It's
back on the lunchbox and all
back
that.
on the lunchbox, man. It's just a great movie. We get Xochitl Gomez in there as America Chavez. Unfortunately, that is the underserved part of that movie. We see the pieces being moved and what the MCU is trying to do in large, but in the micro look at things, she didn't quite work. But I'm looking forward to seeing her in whatever Young Avengers it is they come up with. There is enough there that I'm interested in seeing what happens next with her, but unfortunately underserved here. Strange's relationship with Palmer, I think, is one of the most complex in the MCU, just knowing that it just didn't seem to work out in any timeline, no matter how hard they try in each timeline. I find a fascinating concept, as most of our characters, as far as I could think of, with the exception of Banner, has that happily ever after with their love interest. Like, we're just not going to get that, it seems like, with Strange. But we now have Clea in the mix. Spoilers, I guess. It's on Disney Plus. Shut up, go watch it. It's just a fun movie. I think Wong has an increased presence the most he's ever done in any of the roles he's been in. So I'm loving seeing that. It's just, and there's the Raimi of it all, man. It holds up.
I have no comment or argument with that. I will add, from my perspective, that it's not that America was shortchanged in any way. We know about as much about her as we did the Power Stone in Guardians of the Galaxy. She's the MacGuffin of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not meant, our expectation with her being in the movie is different than how the film used her. And I'm not going to argue. I don't know her from any other character in the MCU because this was my introduction. But there are a lot of people that are very, very passionate about her character. We've talked about this on the show before. But I certainly feel like for what the movie was supposed to be, we got enough of her, as you pointed out, to be invested in her journey and want to see where she goes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's all we needed out of this movie. So that's the only thing I got on that. It is on my list. It is just not in the top 5.
Give me America Chavez, Miss Marvel, Kate Bishop's Hawkeye, and Florence Pugh and some shit together, and I'm going to be all there for it.
Will Florence be playing herself, or will she be Yelena? Everybody else has got code names, so I wasn't sure.
No, it's weird because Florence Pugh just has powers in the MCU. It's the first celebrity superhero. Florence Pugh is always Florence Pugh. I don't care what the character is. Florence Pugh went on a weird midsummer trip one year, somehow made it out alive. I love me some Flo Pugh, man. She was a wrestler for a little bit, and she's had a storied life.
God, she really has.
Really had young for all that living she's done, man. She's just slowed down. What is your number 3, sir?
Oh no, I lost my mic. Sorry about that, everybody who had to hear my mic fly right off my desk. My number 3 movie is a film from Finland. It, according to this information, was released in 2021, but I believe it came to the States at South by Southwest. The Blind Man Who Did Not Want to See Titanic. This is an intense little film.
He's the last dude on earth who's like, Cameron, fuck him.
Actually, the whole deal is that I forget what off the top of my head, I should have looked this up, but he has a medical condition that not only reduces his mobility, but also his eyesight. And he is an enormous cinephile. And everything in the movie is shot from his visible perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very tight the whole time, a lot of extreme close-ups. Everything around whatever he's looking at is hazy. So we don't get a clear look at anything, really, unless it's right up on him. And when he's talking to a woman who he's developed this relationship with, the two of them haven't met, but they talk just about every day. He actually discusses how when his eyesight started to go, he stopped getting Blu-rays because it didn't make sense. He wasn't going to get any of the benefit, so he didn't. But the one movie he refuses to watch is James Cameron's Titanic. He absolutely, completely refuses. I think, if I remember correctly, he has the movie, but it's still wrapped in cellophane because he refuses to watch it in something else. But the girl that he's talking to, if I remember right, does like the movie. Well, he decides he wants to go see her, but his attempts to do all of it on his own to get there leads to a number of situations that are almost, one in particular is almost fatal. It is an extraordinary ride of a film. It really, really is. And because everything is so tight, you basically only know what he knows. Mm-hmm. So normally in a film, you'll see other characters moving around and engaging somebody, whatever. We don't see them. It's only what he's engaging with within the limited scope. It is a fascinating film. It is a phenomenal film. And it's one I have to recommend. Absolutely, positively. That's my number 3.
All right. Boom. I am interested in checking that out. You said it's where? Finland? Iceland? One of Scandinavians?
Timu Nicki is the director. From Finland. That's where this film is from. The blind man who did not want to see Titanic.
Boom. I mean, it's talk about hitting the nail on the head with that title. Okay. My number 2. The Batman. Oh, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was supposed to play Nirvana. That's what I was supposed to do. Or The Cure.
Yeah. Whatever 90s grunge you prefer, insert that into this, and you will have your playlist for The Batman. Man, Matt Reeves, I love the fuck out of this movie. Visually stunning. The sound mixing is to die for in this movie, especially, of course, with the car chase scene, which I watched right before we started this. And once again, China rattling in the cupboards if it was the 1950s. It's just so good, man. It gives us the world's greatest detective doing actual decent detecting. Say what you want about the riddles being too easy. I 100% agree with that little bit of criticism there, but it's just great. Paul Dano is just he's finally ascended to the full Paul Dano I knew he would become. Head is just huge and wobbly and just being an asshole. Colin Farrell looks like he's having an absolute blast as the Penguin, as well as Jeffrey Wright looks like he's having a blast playing Gordon. Everyone's like they're having fun except for Pattinson.
Well, he can't look like he's having a good time.
He can't look like he's having
his whole deal is he's fucking miserable.
Fucking miserable. I've said when we talked about it beforehand, I have some issues with John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. That just doesn't quite work for me. The Falcone that I like is a bit more of a menacing person, and he's just kind of there. Like he moves, he shakes, he operates, he affects the plot, but like the tone, the vibe of Falcone just didn't quite work for me. But Selena Kyle did give him a nice little scratch on the face, which is a nod to the Long Halloween. Actually, a nod to Batman Year One. Shout out to Frank Miller. And it's just a great movie. A little bit long, maybe. That third act, it goes a little bit squiffy with the whole flooding of Gotham. But then again, Gotham is there in storytelling for the sole purposes of getting fucked up all the time, and it does. I thought Reeves made a great movie. It's probably my second favorite Batman movie, right behind The Dark Knight, and it is chasing The Dark Knight's ass. It's a possibility that by this time next year it could be my number 1. I love pretty much everything about that, and plus black and red are my 2 favorite colors, and he uses that aesthetic so well. It appealed to my visual sensibilities and my love of cinematography.
The Batman is not as close on the tails of The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight is a movie where we don't have cable, but if I was somewhere where I was
You
like,
were in a
oh,
hotel.
The Dark Knight is on,
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere until the movie's over.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel that way with this Batman, but it's still a very good film. If someone were like, hey, let's get together and watch the Batman, I'd probably go, cool. It's a good film. I actually like to Turo in it, if only because everybody else is so big that his quietness, this is a man who doesn't want or need. He has zero fuck concerns. So in that regard, I had no issue with the performance, but I could see where a larger, stronger performance, a more kingpin-esque would have worked for others, even if that's not what you were referring to.
Tom Wilkinson in Batman Begins, I think, is the perfect Carmine Falcone.
He's good. He's very good. Yeah.
Right on. What's your number 2, sir?
My number 2 is another film that I saw at Sundance. It has not been released yet, and I am pissed off because I want to watch it again. Oh, this film sat on my number 1 slot since I saw it in January. I want to watch it again because I have fucking questions. It is Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson, Something in the Dirt. This movie rules. Now, I'm going to read to you. I don't want to get too big into it because this is a movie that you should watch with as limited knowledge as possible. So I'm merely going to tell you the description that's written on Letterboxd. When neighbors John and Levi witness supernatural events in their LA apartment building, they realize documenting the paranormal could inject some fame and fortune into their wasted lives. They shot this during, I think, quarantine and COVID quarantine, in LA. They used, I forget which of their 2's apartments, or if it was both of their apartments, to shoot this in. So if you want to know where they live, now you can see what they look like. Holy shit, this film is, it just, the further you go into it, it's like walking into the mouth of madness. And I don't mean that in the sense of, I'm going to say it's a multiverse of madness and we're going to see 10 of them, but only explore 3. Like, this movie, the further you go into it, the more you question everything that you're watching. It is fantastic. I need for them to get picked up. I've been hoping Welgo would pick them up because Welgo distributed Synchronic, their last film. No word yet. Somebody please pick it up. That's my number 2.
There you go. Benson Moorhead, always doing some wild shit. The Endless was a wild movie. Synchronic was pretty good as well. Number 1, man. Movies, you can do one of 2 things. Mm-hmm. Well, they can tell you a great, deep, emotional story, or they can just fucking blow your socks off. And every once in a while, you just need a socks blowing movie. And my number 1, man, blew all of my socks off. I changed pair and then blew off the next socks off too. Top Gun Maverick, baby. I went into this year looking forward to it, like, man, this is going to be good. Kaczynski's directing it. The man's definitely got an eye for great cinematography. Oblivion is a shit movie, but it looks good. And he also gave us Tron. So, I'll always give him a chance. Thanks for Tron. I did not expect what I got out of this movie, which is an actual story with some heart to it. This new phrase is being kicked around, legacy sequels. This is far and away, hands down, the best one we have gotten, man. Tom Cruise returned to a role that's been 30 some odd years in the boiler. Slides right back into it because I secretly think Pete Mitchell is who Tom Cruise really is in real life. And this is a great story, a great nebulous bad guy, harkens back to its predecessor in Top Gun, but it's not all winky elbows, remember all this. They kind of get that out the way early with that opening credits montage, and then it's its own thing. It does not lean on the crutch that is nostalgia. It's very clever with its callbacks and its winks and its nods, but the characters have progressed, well, maybe not really Maverick, but people like Iceman have progressed and developed. It's just great, man. It's the cinematography is delicious. The editing in this movie is perfect. Again, sound mixing, like I talked about in the Batman. It is wonderful. This movie is firing on all cylinders. I think this might be Kosinski's best work. Not Tom Cruise's best acting, but he is acting his ass off in this movie. I love every bit of it, man. And then what they do with the younger group of fighter pilots coming in is it's the whole story between him and Rooster. It's good how they deal with that. The third act, man, that third act is just a wild ride, and possibly that scene of him completing the impossible mission when he steals the plane, I think might be a nomination for my favorite scene of the year. It's between
Impossible Mission. Is this the John Wick crossover?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's the Impossible Mission.
Is this a backdoor origin story? Is this how we find out?
I hope not. I wonder why old ass Pete Mitchell is backdooring with somehow younger Ethan Hunt and also John Wick. But yeah, what he does with that aircraft in that scene, which he's been constantly telling people that this probably can't be done, and we see repeatedly these hot shots can't do it, and then he comes and does it with relative ease for what we see. Just reaffirms what a badass a man doing what he was put on this earth to do. And it's very rare that you get to see people do what they are put on this earth to do. You get to see glimpses of it, like a Michael Jordan, or in this case, man, that man was born to fly planes, and he does it very well. And that is an incredibly tense and wonderful and well done scene.
Well, I say agreed. I agree that you believe all of that. I have yet to see it, but I'm hopeful that it'll come out on home video in September, and then I can.
September.
Oh, it's Tom Cruise. It's Tom Cruise. So that means a regular home release window. Everybody else has moved their shit up. Well, most.
Oh, that
Sonic 2 for some reason hit theaters in April. It's coming out on home video in August, even though it's living on Paramount Plus right now.
I need to see when Men has its home release too, because I need to scoop that up. But yes,
it's available now.
Men?
Yeah.
Like the physical copy is available now. How did this get by me? Do I already own this movie?
I believe Ethan Hunt was set up on an impossible mission to sneak it by you.
Well, then he succeeded, man.
Yeah. In-store available. Well, Best Buy's closed. Sorry, you can't get it there.
So Best Buys are just closing all over the place. How did this get by me? I don't know.
Am I misremembering this? Let me check. I know that this is slightly off topic, but I was pretty sure it's available now, or it's about to be. But
this title will release August 9th.
Okay, so soon.
Yeah, actually about a month from the day we recorded this.
August 9th. Yeah. Less than a month.
Done and done.
There you go.
But yeah. Ignore all that I said about him stealing planes. What's your number one?
Okay, I'm going to try something silly. We're going to see if this is going to work. Okay, I'm going to put my mic up here for my number one.
Salsa, not flamenco, my brother. Do you know? Not to?
What is not to?
Oh my God. Love this movie. Fucking love this movie. I have been hearing about it for months. It didn't really get a big wide release stateside, and everybody on the coasts in the critic circles that I at least peer into, even if I'm not in them myself, we're all like, y'all have to see this movie. And it eventually hit Netflix, kept hearing about it. Netflix has the Hindi language edition. The version that you just heard was, if I'm pronouncing this right, Telugu, which is the native tongue for this film. But this song and another song are on YouTube in the native original language. Kept hearing amazing things about it, put it on, was trying to wear it while my youngest was sleeping. It took me 3 tries to watch the full movie the first time, because I watched the first 40 minutes by myself and went, holy shit, this is amazing. I have to stop now. So maybe Crystal will watch it with me. She couldn't. So I went another hour 40 with Preston like a couple days later while he slept, and then finished it up on a third try. Finally watched it in basically one go. No, it took me 2 nights. We had 40 minutes left. This movie rules. I've been listening to the original language soundtrack, the 7 songs, on repeat for the last few days. This film is mythic. It is epic. And every time you think, they can't possibly go any larger than they've just gone, they go larger. They keep cranking it up. And for those of you that don't know, RRR is set in the 1920s, pre-Indian independence from Britain. The story itself is fictional, but the 2 leads, the characters that are featured, Ram and Beam, are real people that, if I understand correctly, didn't actually meet in real life, potentially didn't even exist in overlapping timelines, but in this film are 2 individuals who become best friends and lead a revolt against a British governor played by Falstad. I suddenly can't think of his real name.
Stevenson. You mean the Punisher? He's in this movie?
Yeah, Falstad.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Falstad. Yeah. Or as Corey said, this other guy.
Oh, but
Taika's admission that he did the Warriors 3 dirty.
Yeah, but at least we got Lady Sif back.
There you go. Yeah, for a good 2 scenes.
Yeah, she's still around though. She's still around. But the more I think about this movie, the more I enjoy it. And my youngest, Preston, since in utero, has always responded to music. It's part of the reason we named him Preston. Yes, Bill and Ted, for those of you who didn't figure that out. But he likes rhythm and music. So I've played the song that you just heard, Not To, which is a great dance sequence in the film, but it's also a dance sequence that carries the characters forward in an interesting way. Anyway, I downloaded the soundtrack the other night. The next morning, I come downstairs. Preston needs to go for a nap. I've got the carrier around my waist, and usually he sees the carrier and goes, ah, and sort of goes the other way just because he doesn't really like the carrier. But I went, hey, Preston, I got something for you. Started playing the song. He literally ran to me. Crystal started laughing her ass off because he wanted to dance. So I put him in the carrier, still have Not To playing, and I'm just dancing along to that song. The music is great. The performances are fantastic. The direction is amazing. The CG is for sure way overdone, but it is appropriate for the type of story they're telling. If I were to make a comparison to American cinema, it would be Zack Snyder's 300. Because while Zack Snyder's 300 is an adaptation of a comic book, which is itself an adaptation of a historical event, there's this big mythos about the entire everything about 300 is larger than life. It's mythic, it's epic. Everything about RRR is the exact same way. And yet it's still incredibly grounded. It's still incredibly sweet. It's incredibly character driven. And the relationship in the main characters is just chef's kiss. I have not a single fucking complaint about this movie. None, period.
Oh, there you go.
This is the best movie I've seen. If I were to do an actual review of this movie, it would be full 5 stars. I have no complaints.
Boom. I quite enjoyed it as well.
I'm over here like I named my unborn dogs and cats after this movie. I've done this. I've painted the walls and you're like, it's cool.
it's cool. It's I like it. I really like it. It's a great action flick. I think the buddiness of it is the strongest aspect of the movie. I think those 2 play off each other very well. They have very great chemistry. And that dance sequence there at the little day party that they went to, it it's I think that is the final solidifying of the buddiness. They were warm, but that's the scene that really locks them in together. And
I've never wanted to wear suspenders more.
Dude did make suspenders look good. I saw an interview where they interviewed Rom, and they're like, so there's rumors going that you outshined NT in this movie, and he's like, absolutely not. We both carried this movie together. I'm like, motherfucker, you outshined this dude in this movie. I thought he was the stronger of the two. I thought his story is more compelling of the two, I think. But overall, it is. I mean, it's a truck full of animals. It just mauls people, and I was here for it. It's
that's not even the end of the movie.
That's not even it. The thing about it is, if at that time, that very well could have been a third act, because you're about 90-ish minutes at that point, and you're just at the halfway point. But if things are kind of wrapped up there, or they had an opportunity to wrap things up, and they're like, let's just run this shit back, and kept it going to tell even more story about the eventual splitting and come together, which is kind of par for the course in these type of buddy movies. You got to have the split and comeback, but how they do it is amazing and heartwarming. And then you get a fucking bow and arrow scene out of nowhere. That's just wonderful. It's a great movie, man. Great movie. I watched that just to see if it would hit the top 5 list, and it just fell short for the number 6. But come end of year, I'll be subject to re-interrogation of this movie to see where it finally places at. I do find it interesting that people saying I didn't have time to watch X movie, and I'm like, motherfucker, you've seen RRR 3 times. It's a 3-hour movie. You got time to watch other shit.
No, I don't. No, I need to make time to watch RRR again. You don't understand. When in all fucking seriousness, I because I had to watch Oksha for the home release review, and I couldn't watch it Friday night because of the storm, knowing that it's on Netflix, my brain went, oh, well, I could always download it onto my tablet for Netflix to watch part of it. And then if I need to, I could start it that way and then watch the rest of it on the disc. So at least I'm watching it on the disc because it's, home release thing, but I need to refresh my memory of the movie and da-da-da-da. And my brain went, oh, wait, I can download RRR. Sweet.
Just terrible. Just terrible. Absolutely terrible. Yeah. Settle in, strap in. This movie is 3 hours 7 minutes. Oh, 5 minutes.
Something like
that. Yeah. It is. It's a long one, but there are some natural breaks in there, and it is worth, even if you got to break it up over a week. And I think it's still a worthwhile watch.
Yeah. Absolutely. Find the time, even if you have to, as Dara pointed out, make it episodic. The first 40 minutes are literally setting up the characters. So if you watch the first 40 stopped, you'll know where to stop because it's the title card.
Yeah.
The official title card. Stop there, and then you've got like 220 left. That's the Batman. No, you don't have the Batman. Batman's 3 hours. If you're like, oh, I'll watch the Batman again. No, watch RRR. It's the same length of time.
I would have advised you watch the Batman again, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, and this is why everything's subjective, and why the Batman is number 2 on your list and RRR is number 1 on mine.
There you go. Would you like to run through your list one more time there, sir, please?
Sure. My list includes From 5 to 1, Framing Agnes, Duel, The Blind Man Who Did Not Want to See Titanic, Something in the Dirt, RRR.
There you go. My number 5 is the Northman, 4 Everything Everywhere All at Once, 3 Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, 2 The Batman, and 1 is The Danger Zone. Good lists, sir. Good lists all around, man.
Oh, this is great. This is great. And most of these are either coming available on home video or already are available on home video. So they will be accessible to you soon. Check them out.
There you go. Another classic Cine Men adventure. We are, I think that's going to do it for this bit of business. We'll see you again here in a couple of weeks. We'll be back with our standard joint with some long gestating challenges for you. So we'll be back to your normally regular program.
Heat has been percolating.
Heat's been percolating.
It's been percolating.
This also gives me time to sit down and rewatch Heat before this too, because I do want to do that. That's it for this episode of Cine Men. We'll be back for episode 71 here in the hopefully near future. Until then, you all take it easy and have a good one.
Later.